Welcome to Beside Ourselves, a podcast on AI adoption for business by the Beside Partners.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beside Ourselves, a podcast on AI adoption for business by the Beside Partners. I'm Theo, based in Cologne, one of the founding partners of Beside. As always, with me is Giles, my partner in crime. Hey, Giles, how's it going?
Hi, Theo. Yes, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. A little bit cooler here in the UK today than it has been of late. Although
Probably
I'm thinking
not
I might regret
right?
wearing a hoodie for those watching on video.
We shall see. But we are definitely, both of us, in holiday mode.
Yeah.
This being late July, us, like many other people, are about to go on holiday. And therefore, we have got a special episode today, a pre-holiday launch release episode to kind of go with our packing. So we thought, like good consultants, we would analyze the state of the industry kind of halfway through 2026, just before we go on holiday. We go all grumpy and kind of, identify our pain points. What is it that bugs us about AI adoption? Spend a bit of time on that, and then maybe circle back and see what our expectations, what are our hopes maybe for the second half of the year. What wonderful things can we look forward to when we come back from holiday and everybody's refreshed and everything? Oh, I don't know about that. I can just feel my optimism draining away just as I say it. But we can try. We can try.
You
right?
go. Live in hope.
Absolutely. So let's start with the first one then. If the episode today is live and hope.
Yeah.
Let's start with the live,
Okay.
What we have lived, our experiences over the maybe the first half of the year. Giles, what has really bugged you about AI the first half of the year? Come on, let's rip.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously I think I've mentioned it 100 times before, and this is a thing that's always bugged me, is the word hallucination. People use that to excuse poor performance. So let's put that one to one side, because I've got on my soapbox about that one before. I guess the other thing is the way that every company feels the need to bolt AI onto their solution, even when it's not really AI. They think everybody's got to have an AI element. And I kind of understand it, because obviously it's the industry trend and it's where everybody's going, and you need to be seen to doing it. And if you're not doing it, you seem to be doing backwards. But I think that just adds more confusion, because, and again, we see this in our projects where you're talking to clients and maybe like we've done before, maybe we do many clients do these kind of landscape assessments, looking at, putting aside the technology, understanding what their needs are and, where their pain points are in a business, and then looking at actually how technology as a whole can help them overcome those particular barriers. And AI may be a component of that. In many cases, even technology is not a component. There might be a process or a system change, whatever. But the fact is, what you get is, because all these tools now are bolting on AI elements, it kind of almost muddies the water to a certain extent. So you end up with, I guess, obviously you've got the frontier models and the kind of mid-tier models and stuff like that, which are the LLMs that are driving that. You've got, your standard platforms, which are kind of then either utilizing that or have their own capabilities. So thinking, Copilot in Microsoft's environment, but then everybody else has it. So the amount of, and I understand why we get the question, but why not this one? I guess that's the question. Why not this one? This platform's got AI. Couldn't we use that one? And it's like, you kind of like, it's not the same. It's not comparable. It's AI being applied within a very, very specific context. And while that is useful within that tool, it's maybe not necessarily better for a broader implementation or a broader series of use cases. It may well get there, because again, you can assume with all these, particularly the larger platforms that are implementing it. I'm not naming or shaming, but you think about the Mondays.coms, the ClickUps, the people like that.
Definitely not naming and shaming.
Yeah, but those sort of platforms that are adding in, and I'm not saying that what they're doing is not great, but obviously what they're doing is initially focusing on the context of what their internal platform does, and over time that will develop and enhance. And but it's not necessarily the AI is almost inward looking, I think, in terms of,
it is, yeah.
Here's our tool, how can we play AI, which is the right way to do it, and it's not necessarily a more universal tool. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any. It
does.
What do you
I see on that, just to go further into your point, I see in that the impact of an AI FOMO is kind of Everybody,
Yes.
every software company must have an element of AI for fear of being seen as being left behind. They're doing what we both identify as a fairly hasty job about it. An AI that's supposed to do everything. It's kind of it plugs into the context and it answers your questions, but it doesn't really help with the wider adoption. If anything, it kind of, as you said earlier, it kind of muddies the water, and we see that a lot. It's kind of AI being used almost like a shield to kind of hide
Yes.
other deficiencies in the system, or, and I think that from a technical perspective, we see that a lot, as a God tool, just basically a complete over expectation of we're going to stop any other features, any other improvements, because AI is going to come in and solve everything. And clearly it's not the right architecture for a lot of the use cases, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, there are some really good examples where I've seen it has been implemented well. And I think that's where businesses deploy it and they're kind of almost upfront about what they're trying to do. So again, an example would be the way HubSpot are using it internally. As an end user of HubSpot, I found their agent actually from a support perspective incredible, because you can go in there and you're like, I need to do this and I'm not really sure how to do it. And it understands the context of where I am in the system. It will then guide me to where I need to be. And actually stuff that historically I'd have spent hours trawling through the help documentation or even talking to support agents, it's able to steer me and guide me. And I'm yet to have it not answer a question and get me out of some sort of, tricky situation. So for really complex platforms like your HubSpots and things like that, which obviously have loads of modules and stuff like that, I think that sort of tool, but what they're saying is very much, we've got this agent here, but it's very much to assist you as the user in using the platform. What we're not saying is this is the AI tool that you could use across your whole business that's going to replace everything and plug it in. And I think where people are doing that works really effectively. I mean, some of the other things we've seen is where you get some of these very bold claims about, oh, well, we can do this and we can do that. And then you kind of lift the curtains on it a bit or pull the curtains back and go, yeah, it kind of does that, but and aspirationally that's where you're going, but maybe there are limitations on that as well. So yeah, for me, it's those, there's lots of ways it's been doing really well. I think where those existing ecosystems are deploying it and it's very much inward facing and they're open about that and that's where they're focusing their energies, I think it's a really great. But where people are maybe just trying to go, well, deploy X AI and we could be the answer to everything, when they're a way off that, I think that is just adding more confusion into the mix.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It does lead kind of nicely to my particular bugbear with the entire industry. I mean, one thing that I have identified a lot is kind of like is the strength of feeling that we get from this technology. It's when you discuss AI, whether it is on business adoption or on wider issues like the impact on employment or environment, is it's almost impossible to discuss AI in a moderate way. Kind of like pros and cons, and look, there's areas of improvement, but the technology is transformative. There is people that are completely boosting it or people that are completely hating it.
Yeah.
And I find that the net effect can be equally disorienting, like the technology being used for the wrong purposes. There are clear challenges, of course, and there is a big challenge that is faced by the industry in the coming months. We'll talk about it in a second, but can we get business adoption to come in fast enough to justify the expense, the capex that the big tech is dedicating on this, and will it happen fast enough before investors start losing faith, and will that power a bubble or whatever it is? And there is things that we can do here. And I think that kind of thinking deeper into this is that there is a sense, underlining of this, is that there is a sense that this technology is happening to us. It does link to your point about using it all the time. That FOMO that we talked about is like this AI spaceship is kind of landing on the world, is descending on us, and we've got virtually no control over it. We must infuse it, to your point, everywhere. And whilst at the same time, we can either scream that we hate this thing, or that we can boost that, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and then we can all embrace it. And it's just not helping. It's just not helping with being able to steer it, because we do have agency on how we deploy it. It's not helping in how we get to steer it and deploy it in a way that it is both responsible and safe and efficient and effective, whilst at the same time acknowledging and dealing with the challenges that it brings. The speed that it comes in, the impacts in terms of environment, copyright, how do we deal with employment potentially being disrupted? Although, just to add, there still is no specific data about it, but the fact that there is so much anxiety about it is the thing. So I think that is beginning to reach a fever pitch. The stringent noises of discussion around AI. It's not helping adoption. It's
Yes.
not helping adoption because when you as a company are facing this technology, it's almost like there's too much emotion in there.
Yeah.
I don't remember being so much emotion when we were deploying cloud, or when we were deploying mobile, or the first wave of the internet. It was, it felt magical for sure, and it felt like this is really important, but it didn't quite feel so like everybody had such a big stake on it.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. And I think but I think that there it was it was a much more binary choice, wasn't it? If you think about, let's take cloud, for instance, it was like up to date, everybody was either on-prem or they were in large sort of physical data centers. They owned the boxes. And then it was like, or you move it to the cloud. It was like a black and white choice. It was like, do you maintain? And of course you had the early adopters, like you do with everything. You go, yeah, that's brilliant. It cost of scaling and all that sort of stuff. And those are more focused about security. And you had the classic sort of adoption pathway where now, it's very unusual to find people going, it's cloud first with, maybe on-prem second, or, and actually people owning their own physical servers in data centers. Again, they're very niche cases, but there was that kind of classic adoption pathway. I think the real issue we have with this is there isn't that kind of binary choice, using it or not using it. Well, I suppose there is use it or not use it, but the question is, but then how do you use it? It's like, I've got a physical box here, which I can then replicate in the cloud, kind of fairly straightforward switch. But it's like, there's this technology here that we can use, but the challenge is, how do we use it effectively? And I think, again, we've talked about this before on the podcast. I think where we're going to end up is this idea that AI is like a utility, like a service, like we use. And I think I said before, like it almost becomes like the operating system that our computers run upon. And you can see people like Apple, for instance, embedding it into the iOS and Mac OS and stuff like that. It's just a service that you use as part of it, which you then build services and technologies on top of. And I think what we've got at the moment is, as you say, take the spaceship analogy, this utility AI service, the model layers, they're dropping into us and they're rapidly evolving. And I think what's not keeping up is then the services that sit on top. And I think that's where, and I think everybody gets focused on, there's a new, the new model's out, this model's out, that model's there, that model. I think that's almost just background noise now.
It is.
I think the reality is, for our clients, SMEs, the models have been good enough for them for, the last 12, 18 months. The new ones are great and they add more capabilities, particularly in more sophisticated areas like code generation, stuff like that. But for actually what most businesses need, a model from this time last year will probably drive that. The challenge is, how do you get the best out of that and where do you best deploy that? And I think and I think it's just repeating your point, the frustration is all this noise around the models.
That's it.
And actually that's almost like, whatever, just let them crack on with that. We now need to focus on actually how we make effective use of this and build it into our businesses.
You mentioned earlier Apple, and I think that Apple is a very good example, or a company that we can look at. So Apple is taking a very grown-up approach about this. They didn't go nuts about data centers and building their own AI. People accuse them. I mean, obviously, they are, probably briefly, they were once again the biggest company in the world.
Yes.
And everything. And, they have decided to take a standoff approach to AI. We'll let other people deal with that layer, with that part of the stack, the model stack, and we're going to focus more on diffusion and just on the application layer.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to see more of that thinking on our clients, more of that Apple thinking, where it's kind of like, look, this is an enabling technology. It's incredibly powerful. Love it, all this. But the focus on its capabilities, it is, as you said, too much noise.
Yeah.
We have to go one level up, be more like Apple, and focus on the diffusion, focus on the adoption and the capabilities on the app layer and everything. So I think the faster that we can check ourselves when we talk about AI, to bring the tones down, to focus less on the transformational aspect, which is going to happen, but over a period of time, and more on the what do we do next,
Yes.
with level-headed technical and business heads. I think the faster we're going to start reaping real benefits from the tech.
Yeah, and having a proper plan for it, treating it like any other change program within a business, actually properly considering it, working out where it can add value to your business, and then, obviously then executing on that plan in a considered way. It sound like we're trying to sell ourselves, but, obviously that's fundamentally what we're doing with our clients.
Absolutely.
Is exactly that, is kind of saying, let's put the noise to one side, understand, where the challenges exist in your business, and what are the best technologies that are out there currently to help you overcome that. And again, that's the currently is the other way, because obviously these things are rapidly evolving. Yes, the models, but even these services that deploy on top, but doing it in a way that actually allows you to almost, I guess, ride the wave like a surf. It's like, that wave might diminish, another one might come on, and actually do it in a way that actually, well, if we need to switch and change course and stuff like that, we can do it, but we can gain immediate benefit.
Exactly.
Anyway, that was a sales pitch.
No, it's good. It's good. It's needed as well. We are available for projects. Everybody should know about this. Visit our website for that. Yeah, let's plug ourselves. This is free content after all.
Exactly.
Having done the, going back to the beginning of the recording about the live and learn. You live and learn. We lived through these things that gave us those bugbears. What have we learned, and what are our expectations for the second half of the year? When we come back all nicely refreshed after the holidays, what do we look forward to?
Well, I think more interestingly, and it probably extends the point that we've just discussed, is I think we're going to interestingly see those model providers, your Anthropics, your OpenAIs and stuff. I think they realize that actually that's where the value is, as in providing the solutions. And I think we're going to see more of those things coming to market. They're almost going to kind of come up the food chain, for want of a better phrase, or up the funnel.
Stack.
Up the stack would be a better way around the food chain. Yeah. So, I mean, we're seeing it with things like Claude Design. We've seen it with co-work. And I think we're going to see more solutions like that, where it's saying, actually, we're taking the capabilities of the model, and then we're wrapping it into a service or an offering that can solve or help deliver particular solutions to particular problems. And I think we're obviously seeing vendors, bringing solutions like that independently. But I think, we're going to see more of that from your OpenAI, and I think they're really exciting. I think if we look, this time last year, and where we are now, those sort of capabilities coming on stream, I think are really interesting. And I would hope we'll be seeing more of those basically in the next sort of 6 months. But yeah, how about you?
It will be interesting on that to see how software companies, so the SaaS, the enterprise software, how they interact with when the AI labs are beginning to move up the stack, when they expand out their forward deployed engineers, how they bring in, as you said, applications that deliver productivity value to companies, all these things. And what does that mean for competition in software? So I reckon, looping back to your original point, that there's going to be a new family of features that we're going to see in all the software that we use, anything from Microsoft to Salesforce, from SaaS like Monday and ClickUp and the rest of it. I think that there's going to be a new set of AI features that we're going to start seeing. And zooming more into it, is a set of technology that is my second bugbear for the first half of the year, which is the word agentic.
Yes.
Which, only gradually, only by
we need
a bell.
We need a bell to ting when we're the agentic.
Absolutely. Oh, exactly. It was only by a fine margin. It did not make my top spot on the things that annoyed me the first half of the year. But I do think the second half of the year, we are going to see the emergence of different agents.
Yes.
So far, the focus has been, and all the, the conversation has been on one particular type of agent, what's called automation agent, where, the open close stuff, where you just basically let it loose on a box, God forbid you give it internet access and off it goes. And then we're surprised that it breaks open, like happened today, or it was reported today, that the agents break loose from the sandbox and they go hugging face. Right. So why are we surprised by that? Anyway, so I think we're going to see less talk of the automation agents and much more talk of the collaboration agents. So agents a little bit that operate a bit more like cloud code, where you set them to do a task, but then that they would give you some pushback, ask questions, ask for permission before they execute, and the whole interaction feels almost like a halfway between the chatbot and a fully automated agent. I think that both because of the amount of tokens that they use, because of the security element, and because so far I have not seen a single use of an automated agent that has delivered any clear benefit. So I think we're going to do away with that. And I think we're going to see the emergence of many, many more collaboration agents, halfway house between chatbot and automated agents. And I think they're going to be the ones. There's going to be those type of features that they're going to come out much more from the labs, and also in response from the software makers as well. And I do look forward to that. I think that that's a richer hunting ground for companies that would like to create benefits.
Yeah, and I think and probably the other thing, just a very quick one to add in there as well, and we mentioned on is the kind of the token usage and the token anxiety stuff, which we see going. I mean, obviously, and again, you're already seeing with Anthropic. I mean, like I've just seen it this morning when I've logged in. The latest models are now they're almost pay as you go. No longer are they included in your standard bundle. So it's almost them acknowledging, you say these models are good enough, and that's what you pay for. If you want to use these ones, it's a pay as you go thing. So again, we're going to see more people providing considered use, you say, using these things in very focused ways, using different models, understanding the capabilities. And I think some of these kind of model routers as well, I think some of those services might become more popular as well, or more prevalent, where you're thinking actually how using almost AI intelligence to actually choose what the right things are, and making those sort of technologies more accessible to the typical user, rather than maybe, an engineer who's maybe building all that stuff out. So I think those sort of things over the next 6 months, I'll see more around that.
Absolutely.
And service around that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily it is definitely a trend that is going to come in. The idea that the cost structure of AI is set to change, that is for sure. We don't quite know which way it's going to go just yet.
No.
And it's not necessarily a positive picture, because I think a lot of people will be very surprised, and we touched on token costing in a previous episode. It will be a big part of the debate, and I think that it will lead to some innovation. You mentioned model routing, and that's probably the first place to look. There will be other ways and other applications to do so, but that's definitely a trend that is that is coming up. And in some ways, I think that we do look forward to that. It might not be a feature one; it might be kind of like a budgeting issue, which is not as sexy as kind of something with a user interface.
Exactly.
But it's more transparent, right? It's kind of something that helps the industry grow up.
Yeah, and again, another example, I think was an article you shared, was comparing this to the rollout of electricity as a utility and how that transformed us. And again, you can think of the routing as the kind of classic thing. It's not so prevalent now, but it used to be when I was a kid, that idea, you get cheaper electricity at night. So therefore you have these things where you're trying to do things in the overnight because it's cheaper. It's that same sort of thing. It's that sort of infrastructure, AI becoming that sort of infrastructure, and we're adopting it, and we're finding ways to use it. We're finding ways to overcome some of the cost burdens intelligently and stuff like that. So, and I guess the big challenge of that, and if you take that analogy further, when we introduced that, what actually happened is fundamentally businesses had to change the way they operated to get the best value out of it, in terms of, and that took time, which is what we're seeing. It's like the models, as we say, are rushing ahead. And actually, as businesses and organizations, we're trying to keep up. And as we're saying, you don't need to keep up. You just need to kind of, and let them go off and race off ahead and do that sort of stuff. Anyway.
Very good. Perfect. Well, we shall see. Time will tell with these things, and it will tell after we're all back from holiday. In the meantime, we should mention to everybody that we have got a special episode coming up sometime in August, our 20th episode, where we're going to address all the questions that we ourselves have left open in the previous episodes. But also, we invite you, the listeners, to submit questions for us, whether it is on the business side of things, or the technical side of things, on the lessons learned from the past, or expectations and hopes, or fears of things going forward. So do submit your questions through our LinkedIn channels or through email, and the email address will be on the podcast notes. For the time being, this is all we had time for. Thank you so much for joining me, Giles. I hope you have a great holiday.
You too. Pleasure as always. Enjoy your
Fantastic.
rest. And looking forward to the second half of the year and all the things we've just discussed.
Fantastic. As always, we were beside ourselves to have you with us. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Beside Ourselves. Don't forget to send us your questions via the comments or the email address in the description. For further information or to discuss an upcoming project, please visit besidepartners.com.